Today on For What It's Nerd, we are discussing the second season of X-Men 97 with the first 3 episodes having dropped earlier this week. And it's going to be a quick one, I think, because it's one of those ones where, so I've talked about popcorn shows and movies before, and this isn't that. It's more than that. It's very good. But it's sort of in the same vein from the kind of, how do I put this? I think X-Men 97, as I'm viewing it so far, and I think season 1 was really good. It's just good. Sometimes it's just a show that is just good, and there's not crazy amounts to say. I don't think the story is anything insane. It's what X-Men kind of is quintessentially, whether that be comics or whether that be the original show or whether that be the movies. It does stay within that X-Men ballpark, and I think there could be commentary on is it are we doing Apocalypse again? Oh, okay. Where's that going to go? Are they going to try and do something different? Obviously, last season they did have a different villain, so they're kind of bringing Apocalypse back, and it makes sense because Apocalypse is kind of this villain that kind of does show up at numerous points. It obviously is, regards the timelines and stuff, obviously relevant for the X-Men. But it's kind of that thing of okay, is this going to be good? Is it going to be kind of rewalk old ground? Obviously, because the old show was so long ago, I get why they're bringing Apocalypse back. It's not like they did this in season 1 5 years ago and then they're doing season 6 or whatever. It's season 2 of a show that is following on from a show that obviously existed years ago. I feel like my chair is making a lot of noise, by the way, today, guys. I don't know why. So if you're hearing that, sorry. So I think for me, it's this thing of okay, the plot is plotting so far, not in a bad way. It's just that I don't think we've gotten to a point where I could really make a judgment on that. Obviously, we'll probably do that kind of at the finale with this one. But what I want to talk about a little bit more, which is something that I do leave by the wayside a lot more, when we talk about this stuff, because I am a story person first and foremost. You can have a really janky scene in a movie for me, and if it's got a good story beneath that, or it's got a good reason for being beneath that, sort of what I was saying about the music choice in Supergirl last week, that yes, it was janky, yes, it didn't hit super well, but it's trying to say a lot of things about the character underneath. So that's where I kind of sit a lot of the time. But with X-Men 97, all I kept saying during watching those first 3 episodes was, this is gorgeous. And it is. I really love the art style. It's so comic booky. And the colors are really reminiscent of that time period for comics as well. Comics, if you look back, comics, I mean, I'm not saying that all comics now aren't, but if you look back, comics were so bright and colorful. So they would use a lot wider range of colors, and I think because TV these days is so saturated, and especially, I mean, a lot of people have made these comments, and don't get me wrong, I think to a degree they're not incorrect, but I don't really care as much as some other people kind of make it. Is that a lot of TV shows and movies, even in the comic book genre, have kind of lost their color grading, lost the color and whimsy. And you know what? Funnily enough, He-Man, I think, brought that kind of color back a little bit, in a way. And I think more movies need to go back to that kind of color palette and adding vibrancy, however you want to put it. Worlds together. So that's my sort of take on that. But what I want to say is, I think not even just the colors and the art style, but the way they depict the characters through it. A lot of people are saying online that Storm doesn't feel like she's getting much here. I actually think she has. I think she's got these really cool moments already. But it's very much through action. The last season she was depowered, and then the first thing she does this season, she creates a solar storm. That's really cool. And then, there's obviously hints towards other things going on in that scene, which I'm going to leave to interpretation for people for now. But regards other characters, not Storm. But I'm very excited to see how Storm progresses through the season. Obviously, she did get an arc last season. I'm not saying that she shouldn't have one this season, but I think this season is very much the Jean and Scott season, but also the Cable season. Cable has been such a big part of the original show, and then obviously was relevant last season from the child perspective, from Nathan's perspective. But I think seeing Cable sort of in a more, like, you're seeing him as a main character this time around. Like every other time it's been as sort of like almost like a guest star, and this time he's here as sort of a character who is you're understanding his psyche, you're understanding how he came to be, you're understanding what that means for him, what that does to him as a person. And I think that's really cool to see play out, because Cable is this very gruff character, but then you see Nathan and he's quite this young, impressionable, soft character, and then obviously you want to know kind of how that kind of progresses into one from the other. So yeah, very excited to see that. And obviously as well, even down to the details of like changing the intros for each episode. So the first 3 episodes of the show, we've got the X-Men one for the past, and then you've got the X-Force episode, which is like totally different, of course. And then you've got X-Men again, but it's the other side of the roster. So it was really cool to see them kind of playing with the opening format for the episodes as well. And in fact, having an episode for the X-Force, because I genuinely did think that you'd have like episode 1 in the future or the past or whatever, and then the other way around, and then kind of just keep going back and forth. But obviously, clearly they want to do a storyline in the present as well. So you've got 3 distinct eras that stuff is happening in, and it's really cool to see how those teams are split up, and to see some other characters, because the main X-Men are out of the main timeline. You're seeing other characters get a bigger stake in the story, like Quanon and Warren, Archangel and Psylocke there. And then obviously Sunspot getting a bit of a role alongside Jubilee as well, of course. And then also seeing the kind of X Factor being kind of pushed a little bit more. They were always really background in the original show. They kind of were like in one episode, and then like everything else was sort of like background material. So seeing them kind of really get to be characters now, seeing Polaris get to exist as something other than just backdressing, and then like Havoc as well, a little bit there as well. Seeing as well a lot there. I don't know why. I don't know what else I can really say on the show. I'm enjoying it. I want to see more. I'm excited that the season 3 is already like sort of going. I'm excited that they're going to keep making these seasons. I think it's a really cool show to have again. I think it's really cool to have an animated show that is existing in a prolonged sense. Yeah, really cool. And it's nice to see it seems like Disney is kind of going back to animated, a little bit of a detour here, but of course, you're seeing that Star Wars is doing more in their anime line with the continuation of the 9th Jedi sort of timeline or setting, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, for Star Wars as well. So like it feels like we're kind of getting back to animated. I personally would like to see a few little shows that kind of sit adjacent, maybe not even shows, but more of that X-Men universe. We've seen a lot of characters in that universe that aren't X-Men, whether that be through cameos or like Captain America showing up last season. I would like to see more of that. I think that those are some really cool moments, and I think the idea of creating a Marvel animated universe similar to what DC did the other way around. Their DC animated universe is quite large, and I think that would be really cool to do in counter or in congruence with the MCU. Even though I know this show is sort of meant to be sort of not on a timeline necessarily, but sort of meant to be MCU adjacent in a weird way. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it there. It's a very small episode today, just because I don't have like oodles and oodles to say. There's not something like I'm not sat here with a conspiracy theory of how it's going to end. Of course, certain things that people are suggesting online, but I haven't really read into that too much, and I haven't really developed my own thoughts and processes on that yet. So I'm not really going to go and do that if it's not something that I feel. But yeah, I think it's a very good start. I want to see where it's going. I think thumbs up from me so far. Of course, there's also the commentary as well, of course, that this is going to probably change next season, because you're still seeing remnants of Bo DeMaio, obviously, who was removed from the show within this season. But whether or not that changes for the better or changes for the worse next season, obviously, that's a conversation to have. But either way, obviously, the show can't employ someone who is, well, there's allegations. Let's put it that way. So, yeah. That's the end of the video for this one, guys. I shall be back I think next week. I'm sure there's something that we're going to watch or do. I can't think of what it is right now, but we'll be back next week. Thanks, guys, for watching and listening as always. I'll see you later. Bye, guys.